My dear children of class 7, good morning. Today we are going to study the fourth lesson in history, that is the Mughal Empire. In this chapter, we will see how the Mughals expanded their kingdom from Agra and Delhi, starting from the later half of the 16th century, and finally in the 17th century, they were controlling nearly the entire Indian subcontinent. They imposed structures of administration and ideas of governance which are still uh, practiced beyond their rule. Okay, children, chapter 4 of the CBSE class 7 history deals with concepts related to the Mughal Empire. Okay, today the Prime Minister of India addresses the nation on Independence Day from the ramparts of the Red Fort in Delhi. Okay, that was the residence of the Mughal emperors. Okay, children, who were the Mughals? Yes, the Mughals were descendants, relatives of two great lineages of rulers. From the mother's side, the Mughals were relatives of Genghis Khan, the Mongol ruler who ruled over parts of China and Central Asia. From their father's side, they were the relatives of Taimur, okay, the ruler of Iran, Iraq, and modern day Turkey. The Mughals were descendants of two great lineages of rulers. From the mother's side, Genghis Khan, and the father's side, Taimur. Okay, can you understand, children? Babur. Babur was the first Mughal emperor. He succeeded. Babur belonged to a place, Fergana, okay, a place called Fergana in Central Asia. At the age of 12, he became the ruler of Fergana after his father's death. Okay, however, his uncles and the ministers of the court were constantly trying to resist or overthrow him. He was soon driven out by an Uzbek tribe of the region, Uzbekistan's tribe. Okay, after wandering for some years, he captured Kabul. Okay, the Kabul is in present-day Afghanistan in 1504. Okay, CE. Babur was attracted by the wealth of India. In 1524, Daulat Khan Lodi, the governor of Punjab, invited Babur to help him overthrow Ibrahim Lodi. He was the unpopular Sultan of Delhi. Babur used this opportunity as it formed the way for him to capture India, to conquer India. First, Babur brought Punjab under his control. Then he marched towards Delhi and defeated Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat in 1526. Thus, he laid the foundation of the Mughal Empire. Okay. To consolidate further, he controlled the Rajputs. Okay, under Rana Sangha of Mewar, Rajputs had formed a alliance against Babur. The two armies met at Kanwa in 1527, where Babur got victory. Okay, thus he established his control over North India. Okay, Babur also defeated Medini Rai of Malwa. Within 4 years, Babur consolidated his position in India, but before he could settle into his role as the monarch, he died in 1530. Okay. Before his death, Babur chose his favorite and eldest son Humayun as his heir. He instructed Humayun to give some provinces to the younger princes Kamran, Askari, and Hindal. Babur achieved a skilled combination of artillery and cavalry. Artillery means in Tamil we are calling as Birangi. Birangi Padai with the large guns. Cavalry means Kudurai Padai, soldiers who fought on horseback. Okay. His concept of the Babur was a brilliant military general, a stern disciplinarian, and a hard taskmaster. Okay, he was deeply learned in Persian and Arabic languages, and is regarded as one of the most famous writers in the Turkish language. Okay, his memoir Babur Nama is considered as one of the classics of world literature. He was keen naturalist who described the flora and fauna of India in great detail. He described about the plants and animals of India in a great detail. Okay. The following are some of his important military campaigns. In 1504, he captured Kabul. 1526, victory over Ibrahim Lodi and last Sultan of Delhi at the first battle of Panipat. In 1528, victory over the Rajputs at Chanderi. In 1528, he got control over Agra and Delhi. Okay. Babur was succeeded by his son Humayun, who ruled from 1530 1 year 1530 to 1530, and again 1555 to 1556. Okay, dear children, look at this picture. In this picture, that Babur's the Mughal Empire at the time of Babur. Okay, how he controlled over our Indian subcontinent. Next one is Humayun. Babur's eldest son Humayun succeeded him as Badshah in December 1530. Badshah in 1530. Humayun was scholar of Arabic, Persian and Turkey. He was a brave, generous and a man of high ideals. Okay, the name Humayun means fortunate. Okay, but the second Mughal emperor had many problems from the start. He got a kingdom without a proper system of administration. His brothers were not satisfied with the territories that they had been given. Thus, he faced the rivalry of his brothers and other relatives who also wanted the power. Okay. Badshah means the Mughal emperor called themselves Badshah to show their superiority to a sultan. Humayun had to fight Bahadur Shah of Gujarat in the west and Sher Khan of Bihar in the east. Okay. In order to strengthen his position, Humayun first marched against Bahadur Shah and captured the whole of Malwa and Gujarat. He marched eastwards to teach Sher Khan a lesson. In the meantime, Bahadur Shah got opportunity and regained its territories. Okay. However, he was killed soon after 1537 CE. Humayun was defeated twice by Sher Khan. Sher Khan, okay, was the son of a small Jagirdar at Jaunpur. His real name was Farid Khan. He was given a title of Sher. Sher means tiger, after killed a tiger. On becoming the king, he began to be called Sher Shah. Okay, that Sher Shah occupied the throne of Delhi in 1540 by defeating the Mughal. He was a very ambitious man. Within few years, he raised a large army and became powerful in the region covered by the present-day states of Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal. His empire extended from Bengal to the Indus, excluding Kashmir, Malwa and Rajasthan. Unfortunately, he ruled over for a very brief period. He died in 1545 and was buried at Sasaram. Okay. Sher Shah gifted India with a well-organized administrative system. In the villages in his empire were divided into manageable units called Pargana and Sarkar. Pargana, Pargana, and Sarkar, Sarkar. Each Pargana was under the charge of officers called Shikdars, who looked after law and order and general administration. He paid great attention to trade and commerce. Some remarkable transformation of revenue administration and the army and the judicial system took place under Sher Shah. He recruited soldiers and Sher Shah introduced a unique system of preventing robberies. He made the headman of the village responsible for detecting all robberies in his area. If there was a robbery, the headman had to hand over the robbers or point out their place of hiding. Otherwise, he had to compensate the people who had been robbed. All this was done in the belief that nothing can happen without the knowledge of headman. Dear children, isn't it amazing or not? Okay, then he transformed currency system, making a uniform in nature. He introduced a new currency, a silver coin called rupiah. He also built an excellent network of roads, including the Grand Trunk Road. All these measures encouraged trade. Many of Sher Shah's reforms were continued by Akbar. Okay, Sher Shah followed a policy of religious tolerance. He respected all religions and he looked after the welfare of all his subjects. The successors of Sher Shah was not capable rulers. His successors were weak and incompetent. This gave Humayun the opportunity to regain the throne and re-establish the Mughal Empire. Humayun, he returned to India and occupied Delhi and Agra in 1555. Unfortunately, that Humayun's rule was short-lived and he died due to the injuries on falling from the stairs of his library in 1556. Okay, the Humayun Nama, written by Humayun's sisters Gulbadan Begum, gives us with a detailed account of Humayun's life. Okay, Humayun was succeeded by his son Akbar. Akbar was the greatest ruler of the Mughal dynasty. He brought glory to the empire and is called Akbar the Great. After the death of Humayun in 1556, his 14 years old son Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar was crowned as the emperor by his regime, his caretaker Bairam Khan. Soon after Akbar's coronation, Hemu, he was a general of army general of the Sood dynasty, occupied Agra and Delhi after defeating the Mughal army under Bairam Khan. However, this conquest by the Sood dynasty did not last long. In 1556, Bairam Khan, on behalf of Akbar, reoccupied Delhi by defeating the Hemu in the second battle of Panipat. Okay. The rule of Akbar can be divided into three phases. In phase 1, 1556 to 1570, that he ruled in that under the authority of Bairam Khan. Okay. Second, military campaigns against the Afghans, Malwas and Kingdom of Gondwana was happened. Suppression of the revolts by his half brother Mirza Hakim and Uzbeks. Then he captured Chittoor in 1568 and Ranthambore in 1569. Okay, in phase 2, 1570 to 1585, campaigns against the rulers of Gujarat and Bihar, Bengal and Odisha were happened. Then in phase 3, 1585 to 1605, He annexed Kandahar. Kandahar is in current day Afghanistan. Kandahar, Kashmir, and Kabul. Then he annexed Berar, Khandesh, and parts of Ahmednagar. Okay. Akbar's conquest. In 1560, Akbar freed himself from the guardianship of Bairam Khan and he took the reins of the government in his own hands. After settling internal problems, Akbar turned his attention towards the expansion of his empire. He first stretched his imperialist hands towards the Deccan. Okay. Look at this map. Dear children, he first stretched his, see here, this is in this orange color, the Mughal Empire at the time of Akbar, that was indicated with the orange color. Okay. He first stretched his hands towards Malwa, Narmada Valley and the northern portion of present Madhya Pradesh, Jaunpur and Gujarat. Okay. Gujarat. Bengal, Ajmer, Ranthambore, Bikaner, Jodhpur and Jaisalmer. Okay. The Akbar understood the importance of Hindu-Muslim cooperation in order to build an all India empire. He married Jodhabai, okay, the daughter of Raja Barmal of Amber. He offered a hand of friendship to the Rajputs. He promised to let them rule peacefully if they acknowledged the Mughal authority. Unlike Amber, Mewar never accepted the Mughals' rule. Rana Uday Singh, he preferred to fight rather than to offer submission. In 1567, the Chittoor fort was captured. Rana Pratap, the son of Rana Uday Singh, continued his father's zeal to safeguard the homeland but faced defeat in the Battle of Haldigati in 1576. However, Rana Pratap Singh's uncompromising resistance will always be remembered and celebrated in Indian history. Okay. Bengal came under Mughal rule control after the defeat of the Afghan ruler Daud Khan in 1576. The Battle of Rajmahal in South India, Ahmednagar was occupied in 1600 CE, followed by Khandesh. The Mughal Empire under Akbar extended from the Himalayas in the north to Godavari in the south and the Hindu Kush mountains in the northwest to river Brahmaputra in the east. Akbar realized that to establish a strong empire, he had to gain the confidence of the Hindu rulers who are in majority. He followed a policy of tolerance and mutual coexistence. He wanted to bring about political unity on the basis of religion. With his aim in mind, Akbar carried out a grand synthesis where he combined the best characteristics of all religions. Okay, he picked the best thing in all the religions and founded a new religion called Deen Ilahi, Dinillahi, or religion of God. Okay, Deen Ilahi was not a new religion. It did not have any rituals, sacred books, places of worship or priests. It was only a code of moral conduct. In order to learn about different religions, Akbar built a hall of worship in 1575 at Fatehpur Sikri, known as Ibadat Khana. Okay. Ibadat Khana, Ibadat Khana, or Hall of Prayer. To this place, he invited some theologians, theologists, mystics, and intellectuals, and the religious persons, and discussed religious and spiritual topics with them. Akbar adopted numerous measures to show his secular spirit. Akbar abolished the pilgrim tax and jizya. Jizya was a tax levied on non-Muslim citizens and pilgrim tax. He abolished the practice of forcibly converting prisoners of war to Islam. He allowed and even encouraged the Hindus to build temples by giving them grants. He participated in Hindu festivals. Akbar got the holy books of Hindus translated into Persian languages. Okay. These are all the Akbar's religious policy. Dear children, let us discuss about the Akbar's 9 jewels. Navaratna was a term used for a group of extraordinary 9 people at Akbar's court. The 9 people, they were intellectuals who came from different religions and walks of life. They were Abul Fazl, a scholar and the chronicler who wrote the book Akbarnama. Faizi, a poet and philosopher and was also Abul Fazl's brother. Abdur Rahim Khan-e Khana, a Hindi poet and the son of Akbar's protector Bairam Khan. Raja Birbal, a poor Brahmin renowned for his wit and intelligence. His duties were most administrative and military. He was also a close friend of the emperor and the court jester. Raja Birbal's real name was Mahesh Das, and the title of Raja Birbal was given by Akbar. Raja Man Singh, he trusted general in Akbar's army. Mian Tansen, a court musician. Mullah Do Piazza, he was the advisor to Akbar. Fakir Aziuddin, he was a mystic and an advisor to Akbar. Okay. The main historical source regarding the Mughals era and the Akbar's reign in particular is a wealth of information in the chronicles of Abul Fazl. He wrote the Akbarnama. It is the official account of Akbar's reign in 3 volumes. The first volume deals with Akbar's ancestry, and the second deals with the events during Akbar's reign. The third volume is Aini Akbari, which offers great details about the administration, Akbar's policies and his vision. Okay, that's Badawi's Muntakabat Tawkari has a more critical view of Akbar's reign. Dear children, look at this picture. Here in this map, here they have marked the Mughal Empire at the time of Babar. That is marked in yellow in color. Okay. The second one, the Mughal Empire at the time of Akbar, that was marked in orange in color. Okay. Then that Aurangzeb and Jahangir, those topics we will see in our next class. Okay. The lesson is over for today. Dear children, take your history book and please read textbook pages 45 to 55 for homework. The lesson is over for today. Have a good day. See you next week, children. Stay home, stay safe and stay blessed. Thank you.